Good afternoon. I am here on this slightly wet day to do a painting for everybody for some flowers. So I'm not going to waste any time because I'm going to try and complete the painting in this amount of time. I'm going to start off by putting some white down using a spatula just because I think it's a good way to start to do a background. So basically mixing that blue, just going to take a little bit of that kind of yellow ochre colour just to make the blue slightly greener, a bit more white. So I want to cover and just make sure that mixes really nicely. And what I'm going to do is make sure that that then goes nicely on the canvas. So mix that up. I think it's the right tone. There we go, that's a nice blue. Start getting that on the canvas. I've got a little 6x6 inch and I just find that a blank canvas is always something that's a little bit intimidating. And I've recently bought these spatulas and I think it's just a really nice effect that you get, especially on the background. There's some gesso on the background that I put on last night in preparation for today. And I just think it's really nice to get some kind of texture into it and just get rid of that blank canvas. There we go. Got some nice texture. There we go. Look at that, lovely. Excellent. I'm going to try not to have my make the camera wobble, but this is my first ever live, so thank you for those who have joined. Let's see if we can get the painting started. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw 3 roses as part of the composition, and I'm trying to open up the painting to have what we call have some air in it, and so I've tried to be less perfect with the brush strokes and more open in the brush strokes. So I've been practicing a few different techniques, and I really have enjoyed doing this one. So I hope you like watching it. It's harder than it looks, but it is enjoyable once you start to get the hang of it. So I take a bit of white, a bit of the sort of scarlet red colour, and a bit of the magenta. A bit more white. Just start again to get some movement. So we've obviously got the blue underpainting there on, or the blue base layer, whatever you want to call it. And I think it's just nice to kind of just get some movement and air on the canvas. This is actually a wooden board. And I'm using acrylic today just because for speed. I'm trying to get a painting finished in record time. I'm basically just making sure that that I can get some layering going on, and oils. Yes, I could definitely do this in oils, but because of the technique I'm using, I don't really want to blend. I want to kind of place the stroke and then leave it. So that's what you're about to see. Okay. So I'm going to use this brush mostly, which is it's called an angle shader. So I'm using this. For some of the petals, I'm also going to use this type of brush here. You see that? It's got a more rounded end. And then I might kind of dip into a couple of flats. That one and that one for later on. But mainly it's going to be this little guy here. Trying not to use too much water because we want it to dry. And just making sure that really looking at tones, I think, and value is the word I'm looking for, looking at value. So value is basically, it's how light or dark something is. So if you imagine a grey scale, if you're really, really light, then that would indicate the kind of the lighter tones of the palette. Whereas if you're if you're looking to get something that's really dark, that indicates the shadow. And so colour is basically light, and the different colours of your paint and the different levels of light and darkness, it basically gives the impression of shadow, or where light is falling on the colour on the object. So I'm going to place the first element. So this is going to be the first part of the rose, that central bit. Let's make that even darker. Get a bit more scarlet in there and work that out. And the thing with painting roses is the main thing is we need to keep that bowl, that line. We'll put a little one up there. And then probably one down here. But we need to make sure that we're keeping the integrity of that bowl of the rose. Let's do the same here. Smush that out. Okay, that's coming along nicely. As with anything, when you just start it, it kind of looks like nothing. And I worked for years in innovation in a corporate job. And it's, when you can kind of have this vision, but you're starting something and no one else can really see what you're up to, what you've got in your head, that's the most challenging part. But it's really important if you are interested in painting or getting into art or creating anything really. It's just, you just got to trust the process, trust that you know what you're doing, or trust that you're going to make some paintings that aren't your best work, but that whatever happens, you're going to learn something. And that's what I've always found is I've always learned something, whether it's I don't really like doing that subject, or there's a better way of approaching something. bringing the right people in, whatever it may be, you know, you always learn something. Let's get some yellow in here. I think that need a nice strike of yellow, I think. Lovely. Just to bring in some warmth, just to make sure we know. There's a bit of a petal there. And this will, like, you know, this will, some of it will be covered up, but really to get depth in my paintings, I like to build up layers. I always like to work in layers, but the challenge for me right now, and the challenge that I've kind of set down for myself in this painting is, okay, you've got an hour. What can you do in an hour? How fast can you work? Because it's very easy when I'm in my studio on my own. I can just, you know, I can take my time, which is lovely. But I think it can make you feel a bit, you tighten up. Whereas if you've got this deadline, self-imposed deadline, it just you make different choices. Some things that you would have fiddled with, and I'm starting to fiddle too much there, but some things that you would have fiddled with on your own, if you've got all the time in the world, then you just leave it, move on. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to leave it and move on. Right, how about going to the other extreme and bringing some cold in? See how that works for us. So let's get a bit of, got some cyan here. Gonna get some more white. And then let's get a nice cool streak of blue. And just put that, I'm kind of thinking, yeah, I know where the petals are going, following the direction. And there's actually on every rose, if you look at them, there's a kind of a point around here. If we were to mark, there we go, sort of mark those dots, that every stroke I do, I'm sort of aiming in for that. Maybe bring that around. And so that's what I'm bearing in mind. Got a little bit of water off camera there. Also got my tea. But we want to start, I think, just getting just a bit more movement, some rounded movement in there. Just need a bit more paper towel. Right, so we're 10 minutes into this session. Not doing too badly. Mix some of this up. Just want to get a bit more movement around here. Oh, that's a nice blended colour there. That's really nice. Go a bit lighter. Again, building layers, giving that impression of the shape coming round, not being afraid to just dab it on, step back. I mean, this is a small painting, but on what I'm doing is practicing this because I really want to make some larger paintings with these flowers in the background, because I think it's really beautiful. So watch out for those coming. As you can probably tell, I love drawing or painting people, particularly women. And I'm trying to figure out why that is. Don't necessarily know why we paint certain things until it reveals itself. I think the human mind is an interesting thing, but I'm attracted to painting women and portraying women's experiences, and I'm exploring interesting backgrounds to accompany those portraits. So watch this space, because I think there's going to be some really, really interesting backgrounds. Some floral, some less so. Some more watery. As some of you know, I have a scuba diving past. So I've been trying to figure out how to incorporate that and the feeling of peace that gives me into the paintings. That's nice. Yeah, so we'll see how that comes through. But this painting in particular is part of a larger scale painting that I've got in my mind that I'm planning. So if you like florals but mixed with other things, I think I like the close up and the fine details on the human face, but then moving that out, shifting out the background into a form of abstraction. That's what I'm really interested in, and hence where this style of painting flowers really comes into its own, because it's really interesting how the eye knows where to look. I've used a few techniques. So some things that painters do will be the level of detail, and something that's really crisp and clean tends to draw your eye. And something that's more blurred means you don't really notice it so much. You look away. You know where the focal point is and isn't. Same with certain colours. Warm colours tend to jump out. They tend to come into the fore. And cool colours recede. So that's partly why I've got a blue background here, which is quite nice. Having a blue background. Hi Christina, good to see you. Thanks for joining. Let me know in the comments are you eating? Or are you just come to have a little look? Hello. Good to see you. Right, thank you very much. Very kind. So I was just saying beforehand, just practicing with some more abstract strokes, trying to get some air in the painting. I think we're going to have some more pinks here. And just trying to get some really nice petals in the background, but just touching the background once to keep the air in. I'm going to get some nice white ones. So mainly the Christina's avoiding work. Very good. Very, very good. That's obviously another perk of coming to these lives, is just generally avoiding any work. I'm all for that. So let's just play around with some of these. It's just a case of building up the layers. Got a little bit too much white on there. And the rose has basically got three, you can kind of look at them with having three circles. You've got the inner bowl here, the outer one, and then these sort of, these petals that come out and they're kind of called reaching petals, I think. That's how I've heard people refer to them, reaching petals. So I'm just going to build up the structure in the background. Keep that movement. It doesn't really matter if I go over, if I lose that shape, I'm just going to reinstate it down here. A bit light there, clean my brush. try not to put too much water on here because it's just going to be harder to make things harder to dry, but there we go. That's it. Let's get that bowl back. Add that in down there. Get some darks in. I mean, some artists, they use, they like to smudge things. I'm not so keen on doing that. But there are different techniques that I can use, you know, whether it's paint, as I've said, these are acrylics that I'm using just purely from a practical point of view today. Just so that things dry and I can go over and over. But I think oils will always be my true love. But essentially, they do take a long time to dry, which is quite a challenge when we're trying to do things at a faster pace. Right, let's get some of that gorgeous sort of salmony pink going again. So I'm going to take some of the red, some of the orange. I don't normally have a kind of tube of orange, don't use that normally, but I had some and I thought, well, for speed, let's just stick with it. So let's put some nice petals down here. Just come across that central piece. Another one in there, nice. I think I have another one up here. Fill that out while I've got that colour on my brush. And again, just building it up, and it's that whole thing of anything you ever do, just trust the process. Okay, it's really only painting at the end of the day. It's really not a life-altering thing if one brushstroke isn't right. Just go over it, especially with acrylic. You have to wait days for it to dry. Just go over it, redo it. You can start to see a sense of things building up. That's it. Okay, let's get some of those white reaching petals coming in. Okay, one. Two. That's it. Okay, what I want to do is get on. Ultimately, I would love to be doing this on YouTube. However, you need to have a certain number of subscribers before YouTube will let you do it, for whatever reason. So it would be amazing if you're watching this live or after the event, because I will be posting it on YouTube after the live. If you could subscribe, that would be fantastic, because it will allow me to give a much more cinematic view. So if you go to YouTube, or if you go to my Instagram homepage after this, or whenever, you can see the link. Or if you're watching it on YouTube, please subscribe. And it'll just, I think YouTube's a fantastic platform, really. I mean, there's definitely advantages to an omni-channel approach, as we would say in marketing. But I really appreciate how YouTube just seems to be really helping creators and giving very clear instruction on how to do things and what you would get in return. It's very motivating. So that would really be cool. And then also, if message me, put something in the comments or message me after, just say what would you like to see? What other things would you like me to paint? Would you like to see me working on a bigger one? Would you want me to set myself these ridiculous challenges of finishing a painting in an hour? Which is quite amusing. Alright, I think I need to get more of this quinacridone. So it tends to be at the bottom and around the sides, well, mainly at the bottom. We just need it to be a little bit cooler. So I'm just going to build those out. And I think when I've got that on, I'm just going to build out the rows just a little bit more, and then what we're going to do is start to put some foliage in. I think that's going to be quite amusing. Oh, hi Dave. We've got the kettle crew here. Don't know if that's Christina drumming up drumming up participants, but appreciate you guys joining. I love that colour. That's one of my favourites actually. Put some more in there. So this is just building the structure. So everything's going to start to come together, I think, in the next maybe 5 minutes. As you basically, once you've got the structure in place, you can then just start to really build out the nuances across all the different leaves, all the different petals. Hey Dave. I was looking into how can you do it so that you can kind of see. I mean, this is a question for Sarah, Digital Sarah. I know she's not here, but how do you do an Instagram live and have the front and back camera? I don't know, but I thought we could, and I looked into it and I couldn't figure it out. So maybe next time. Oh, it's absolutely pouring down here. Right, let's get some of these petals in. So again, just building up the different layers. Let's have a little bit of joining here. And then I think we're going to start getting into the greens. Let me just wipe this off. I think I left this one off my stories, but saying, and I suddenly realised I hadn't put it in. But essentially, I've got this green, what's it called? Phthalo green, which again, I don't tend to use. I think I've only used it for this painting, but it's still quite nice. So I'm going to use that, a little bit of the yellow ochre to create quite a warm, deep green, and then get some of the burnt sienna. So that's quite dark. And then we will see where we go. But keeping it pretty loose. Let's get some of the green on. And that will just help us to place it. And actually some of it really starts to state where this, obviously states where the stem is, but the direction that things are going in. So again, keeping it really free, loosening up, really easy to just stay really tight. But this is basically impressionism. This is something that I've been working up to for a while, but it's really it's actually really hard to stay really loose with painting because you can get really tight and freeze up, but I'm just trying to keep the air moving through because I think it just gives it's just more interesting. So that's partly why I'm doing these lives, just to kind of keep myself on my toes, make sure I'm not getting really tight, lounging around in my studio, taking my time. I need to add in a little bit of jeopardy, I reckon. Add in some time pressure. I think I work better to a deadline. So that's what I'm doing. Enforced stress. Oh, thanks, Christina. I think Christina's off looking for how to do front and back screen. Not that I, might not necessarily want to see the back screen part. Probably only get a bit of a boring view of my eye or something random. That's partly the biggest challenge of setting up anything on video is trying to get the right camera angle and lighting. I don't know if Christina finds that, but my goodness. The painting mix fairly straightforward. It's the setting up the rig so that you haven't got your hand completely in the way, and you're not blocking the view, that everything's charged up, everything's prepared the night before. I gessoed this panel the night before, making sure that it's all dry. It's the prep. This hour is the relaxing bit, to be honest. It's the easy part. It's the reason I got into it, to actually paint. That's the fairly relaxing part. Just seeing what happens, going with it. I think this is the nice thing, having just the brush strokes. I think that's quite cool. But like I said, this is in preparation for the backgrounds that I'm going to be creating on my larger paintings. So I guess that's one of the things I get out of it. Also, I wasn't actually sure if I could talk and paint at the same time, but it seems like I can. So it might be okay. Just trying to add in some different tones, some lighter greens, give the impression of leaves, but again, the focus of this painting is not the leaves. The focus of this painting is the centre of these roses. Oh, thanks, Dave. Very kind. I'm glad you can at least see, you can hear. I did do a little test with a friend, actually. You can do a private live. So that was handy, even though that was a challenge in itself. But I checked the sound, checked all of that. So, trying to be as pro as I can be, if that's the thing. I quite like the way that this is blending in here. I'm just going to get my red while I can and just see if I can, even though I'm not supposed to do blending, but I do quite like that. Just brings the bowl round. Just do that. Just go with it. Again, reinstate the bowl. That's the thing that makes it look like a flower, is this shadow, the dark values. If you don't have that, then you lose all sense of it. I think we need to bring this floating bit of foliage in here. It's a bit odd. Let's bring that round. It's so fun just to be able to, I do like this impressionist style, just being able to kind of pick up the brush, do some blending after all the prep. Let's get some more pink in there, I think. See, that is the problem. Too much green on that. How did I get green on that brush? No idea. Right, okay, let's go in. We're going to start to really go big with these roses now, I think. I think the green is okay for now. Maybe a little bit here. See, this is where I could fiddle away, and just an hour goes and I've just been fiddling. But hey, what's the time? I've got 25 minutes, okay, right. Let's get back to the flowers. But I think it's quite nice to have the, actually let's just add in a little bit of contrast there. It's nice to have the time pressure to kind of keep me focused on what matters. I think that's part of the thing. I'm hoping to learn quite a lot from this process. I mean, because I can spend 4 hours just on painting an eye. It does build quickly, yeah. It's quite weird. You kind of start something and you go, God, there's nothing there, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, you've got some foliage, and it's just giving again the impression of it. So let's start. I think I'm going to use this brush actually, because I love that colour. So this one up here is much more of a bud. I'm not doing a thing. It's a question. Yeah, so I'm copying a photo, but they have to be really well lit. Sort of copying it's like it is a photo, but I am ad-libbing quite heavily, I would say, which isn't necessarily the best way to do it, but hey, that's where we are. I think the best way to do it is to have a photo that you, and I've been using Procreate actually, because Procreate, as I think I can't remember if you've got that, Christina, actually, but Procreate's so good for being able to take a photograph and just basically then manipulate the background, and you can change the tone and all the rest of it. I mean, it's like Photoshop, but kind of, just it's scaled back. I have got Photoshop as well, but it is a scaled back version, and I don't think you need all of the bells and whistles when you're just planning a reference photo. So I've been fiddling around with that, because I think that is actually the best way forward to use a reference photo, because if it doesn't look good in the reference photo, it's not going to look good in the painting. It doesn't magically get better, would be my experience. Every time I've made a terrible painting, and you kind of have to earn your stripes in that way and make loads, then I think I can trace it back to not enough time spent on sorting out the reference photo. So there we go. Right, what's the question? For a layering colour and shape, you have to be quite bold. Yeah, confident by the looks of it. Yeah, definitely. That I have a tendency to overkill the detail. When I'm doing oil painting, I can completely get lost in the detail, and it does pay off. I mean, if you look at some of the earlier, like when I did paint that eye, it took me hours to do the eye, but the rendering is, you get a different look. Whereas on this, you get a more what's called a painterly quality. And it just depends, it's entirely dependent on like different art styles and then what you like to look at, really. But I think it gives more of I'm trying to paint in a way that gives more of a sense of the feeling of something, rather than just trying to make a photographic reference of something, because, you know, we've got photographs for that, cameras for that, if you rather. So I think that's the thing. But yeah, I think a lot of people don't realise the level of layering that goes into a painting. You kind of, because you only really, there's a bit of a joke among artists of, like, you know, people only see your the final layer, but, you know, I don't think that's true, because you can still see the layers building up around it. So I'm going to start adding some more whites, I think. I need to break out those petals. How long have I got? 20 minutes, okay. Dave, have you ever painted? Have you ever got into painting? Or tried it? You looking to give it a go? Be interested to know. I think everyone should give it a go, to be honest. I'm slightly biased, but if people can get over the fear of making a bad painting, then there's a whole joy out there. Not for a while. Oh, interesting. There's paintings in the cupboard, in the closet then there. I'd love to see them. But yeah, I think painting offers different things to different people, but so many different types of paint as well. Drawing's your thing, yeah. What do you like to draw? I mean, drawing's a fundamental skill, so you can go anywhere with that, really, with the drawing. What's your subject matter? And did you... Oh, I've got loads of questions now. I wish this was a Zoom call. We could have... Maybe that's... I wonder if I can do that with YouTube. That's what I need to look into. Cover MDF with polyfiller and etch out the designs and texture. Yeah, MDF. I've got some... In fact, this is MDF, leftover kitchen units. I've just sort of grabbed anything just to mix it up. But, yeah, I think... I mean, also gesso. As long as you put gesso on stuff for painting, in this sense, then you can basically... Your surface is pretty much the same. Texture, I mean, in the end. I think that's interesting. Some people say you should only ever paint on the surface that you're going to finish on, but I think there's a balance, isn't there, between... Oh, still life. Yeah. Depends. I know what you mean. I'm not a still life painter. I get a little bit... When I was looking at different things to paint for these lives, I had a whole like Pinterest board type thing full of different still lifes that I could paint, and I just didn't really... I kept putting it off, and I thought, I don't know why. Why am I putting it off? It's because I'm not interested in painting those. But, you know, some people like it. Some people like landscapes and things like that. There's a lot of landscape painters in Norfolk for obvious reasons, I guess. We've got beautiful landscapes, but it's not really my thing. Bottles. Oh, right. Yeah, glass is a really interesting one. That is quite fun to paint, though. I'd like to get better at that. Not drawn or painted that for ages. But yeah, flowers in a vase could be. Mine are knocked that. But yeah, I think painting, choosing your there's so many different choices when you're painting. What's the subject matter? What's the medium? What are you going to paint on? You know, there's just endless questions. So I think a big part of that is just trying to narrow it down. The beauty of constraints actually is really helpful. Reinstate some petals over here. Get some coming around here. Reinstate the centres, I think. to inspiration. Oh, I have to check that out. Yeah, there's open studios. Is it about to start in Norfolk? Where you can actually go around. There's a few artists I'm going to go and see. But open studios means that you can go into to see working artist studios, and obviously buy their paintings is what they would love you to do. I'm hoping to take part next year, but I'm going to go and have a little look-see this year to see how they set it up, meet some of the contacts that I've made online, things like that. So I don't know if you guys have ever been to any of the open studios in Norfolk or elsewhere. It was reasonably popular in London actually, but I never really went round when I was there, but wish I had done now. Yeah, so again, darkening the values, as in how dark or light something is, can be make the biggest difference, because it should be really dark on the inside. So going back round, darkening those up, getting those internal areas really clear, making sure that they pop, and then and also I'm looking at you can do this thing where the edges, you kind of have edges that are sharp and then ones that are broken. So a broken edge on the outside of here. And that's what I mean about getting movement and air. That's what allows the painting to breathe. And it helps to get movement. Your eye doesn't, it's not like a photograph where, there are some fantastic ones, Dave. So getting people's eyes, that's a big part of the composition, is getting the eye to move around the painting. It's not like a photograph, because in a photograph you kind of, there's a focus, obviously, as part of the way that a camera works. It focuses in and it gets rid of other things, whereas your eyes don't do that. They pick out the things that your eyes believe is most important, and so and your eyes move around. If anyone from marketing days, if you remember ever seeing any eye tracking software, it shows you how people's eyes move. And they move around at the most interesting things. And that's what you're trying to do in a painting when you compose it. You're trying to make people have an experience of looking at things where, there's a decent amount to look at. That's a really bad composition would be something where you're kind of not quite sure where to look. And you're not really helping the viewer to focus in on anything. So that's what, darks, lights, cold colours. Cold colours recede, warm colours come towards you. That's why a lot of backgrounds are blue or cooler colours. It's just one of the techniques. They don't always have to be, but you have to make decisions based on what's naturally going to happen when someone looks at something. What's the natural inclination of your mind and your eye going to do? So there's quite a lot of things before you even get into taste. It's essentially what you're paying for a work of art. You're paying for someone else's taste, choice, making something look nice. Making all the choices that I was mentioning earlier, you're basically paying for someone to make those choices and choose something that, looks really nice. Like even when someone does, designs a pair of trainers, You know, like Nike, you're paying for that design, you're paying for them to have made good choices earlier on in the design process. Same with art in a way. I think art people can be a bit worried about, I don't know, how to choose a good piece of art or whatever. It's just like, well, what's your taste? You managed to choose clothes to wear, or how to decorate your home, or whatever it might be. So art isn't any different. I think it's got this, you know, the art world has got, in some ways, has kept itself mysterious and put people off. I'm much more in the place of open the gates, let everyone in, make everyone feel comfortable. Like music, it's weird, isn't it? Music, there isn't that. You quite happily go, yeah, I like this artist, this musician, I like this band. I mean, you guys might not feel like that about art, but I've heard it quite a lot. People get a bit worried about saying you know, if you've ever been around an art gallery, people are kind of like, oh God, you know, I don't know, do I like that? I'm not sure. Do I like it? Is it good? Is it good art? Do I want to put that on my wall? Like when it's an original, I mean. Like when it's like a print or something like that, it's probably easier to, you know, to feel confident, because maybe it comes down to cost a little bit. But, you know, I think the sooner people start to feel confident about making a decision, like they would what they're going to wear that day, or what clothes they're going to buy, or how they're going to decorate their homes, I think the better. There's no need for people to worry about it. So I think I'm gonna talk more about that and help people to figure out what they like and be confident. Because certainly with musicians, that, you know, or with music, I certainly don't have a problem with knowing what music I like. And I've not seen that amongst my friends. Is this a good song? Do I like it? I'm not sure. I think pretty much everyone has their favourite bands or favourite musicians. So you're now listening to the general mumblings that go on in my head throughout the day, which is why it's interesting to not actually be on my own for once. Making work not on my own. That's what appeals to me, to be honest, about open studios. It's letting people into the space. It's like when you move into a new home and you kind of go, oh, it doesn't feel like home. Why doesn't it feel like home yet? Probably because no one's been round. So I kind of feel a bit like that. Quite like people to come round. Not sure if my husband will feel the same, but I think open studios is good. It gets energy. I'm getting more and more into this whole kind of thing about different energy and things. So I think it's a good thing. Open up the space, bring some energy in. Yeah, so put it in the diary for next year. September 2022. No, 23 next year. September 23. Everyone over to my studio. Have some fun. I think I'm going to put some, I really like that yellow that was in there before. I think I've lost some of that. I'm going to put that back in. There we go. Get a bit of warmth in there and in this one. How long have I got? 6 minutes. I feel a bit like Annika Rice. That reference might be lost on, I don't know, but do you remember Annika Rice? She was like, stop the clock. Going round. If not, it's probably worth YouTubing it, because she was brilliant. She used to go around in a helicopter. I think it was treasure she was looking for. I can't remember. Oh, thank you. Yeah. She's looking for treasure and stuff. I can't even remember the premise of it. I used to watch it the whole time. So hopefully you can see. I mean, I could carry on fiddling with this forever, but you know, you get the idea. It's just to try and bring some sort of different textures, different. I mean, they're roses, but they're not kind of something that you'd see on a realistic painter. Like a realistic painter wouldn't paint them like this. This is very much Impressionism. Let's get some more movement in there. Yeah, very much Impressionism, different, totally different style. But it's fun. I think it brings more of the feeling of the rose. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. It brings the feeling of the movement. So let me know what you want me to paint next on these lives. Planning on doing them again on a Friday. I mean, is it a good time? Oh, the treasure hunt thing. Yeah. Yeah, it is treasure. I couldn't remember if it's clues or something. I'm going to have to go and look this up after on YouTube. But yeah, that was good fun. But yeah. So if there's anything that you think would be interesting to paint, let me know. Any other different types of flowers or stuff that you think would be cool. Got a few ideas, but as I say, I'm trying to make it so that it's the background of the bigger works that I'm doing. Or would you like to see me, or would you like to watch me paint the bigger works? That's the question, I suppose. Definitely see the movement. Yeah, thanks. I like it seeing develop so quickly. It's a novelty for me as well. I could create loads of paintings, couldn't I, if I just did one an hour? There we go, learnt something. But yeah, this has been really cool. It's been fun. I really appreciate you guys joining. But yeah, I'm here to serve. Let me know. And yeah, if you can, I'd really appreciate you subscribing to my YouTube channel, because then I can do a much more cinematic version over on YouTube, because I need to get to 100 subscribers to be able to do YouTube lives. And I think that would be even better. So it'd be a bigger screen. You can watch it on your laptop or whatever. There we go. I'm going to bring that, I think, to a close. Put it face on. You can see that. And acrylics, unlike oils, they dry quick. They dry darker. So that will darken up now. You have to take that into account. Oh, thank you. Need to do TikTok. Oh God, Christina, TikTok. I know. Thanks. Yeah, I probably ought to do TikTok, but it's something. I think YouTube is more me. It's more long form. I can have a little chat, and it's less stressy. You're good on TikTok, but yeah, if we can do this again, I'll be here again next Friday, doing my doing something. Maybe I might do something, an eye or something like that. Maybe, and I'll do an eye in an hour. That'd be quite fun. Something like that, but let me know. Thank you for joining, and I will see you soon. Yes, that's the idea. Thanks, guys. Bye.